So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Within this session, we're going to be focusing within organisational development and take a deep dive into what the new Pinnacle Series 2018 has to offer. Now, although Pinnacle Series is a learning management system specifically tailored for the AEC market, we'll also provide some visibility as to how users are now using the platform to house their own training material, best practices, and standard operating procedures. So in the way of introduction, my name's Ben Kernick and I work for Excitec as a Customer Success Manager. Now my role is to work alongside customers to support them in maximising the impact and return on investment within both the technology they use, as well as the organisation's most valuable asset, the team of people that underpin it. I also have pleasure in introducing to you Jeff Rouse, who works as a product consultant for Eagle Point, the developer of the Pinnacle Series. And what with being based in the States, thank him again for joining us very early in the morning to support this session. Now, Jeff will be taking us through the new release, providing a glimpse of the development roadmap, and will be here to answer any questions you might have regarding the platform. So the session is going to be recorded and made available through the Excitec website. If you navigate to our homepage, you'll find a menu called Insights. Now this link will provide access to the video, along with a whole host of additional content we put together for customers around the latest updates, news, and industry trends. If you've used previous content from here before, you'll already have access to the recording, but if not, simply complete the online form and you'll then be able to gain full access to all the content available. There's also going to be a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so please use the question box or chat function as we progress, and we'll then address all the questions at the end. Now, if you think of anything further you may have forgot to ask or would prefer to keep them offline, please email us utilising the address on screen, and I can then come back to you later on. So with a quick look at the agenda, we're initially going to look at some of the business challenges that drive the need for Pinnacle Series. And following on from that, I'll hand you over to Jeff, who's going to take you through a live demonstration of the system and provide further insight into the development roadmap and instructions on transitioning to the new release for those existing users. So Pinnacle focuses within three key areas. If we consider continuous learning, one of the challenges our customers face is coping with how quickly the technology is changing and the need to keep up to speed with more efficient and effective ways of working. Classroom-based training is certainly valuable, but at the same time it can be expensive when considering not only the cost of the course, travel and accommodation, but in addition to this, the time away from the office where there's limited productivity. Another challenge we see is the ability to retain knowledge after a training course. There's actually an interesting book called Committed to Memory. It's written by an author called Rebecca Rupp. Now she has a PhD in both biology and biochemistry and states that 1 hour after learning, 56% of material has gone to the wind. 1 day later, 66% has evaporated, and after 1 month, 80% is gone altogether. So to address these challenges, Pinnacle Series provides a broad range of specific AEC-focused training material, which is CPD accredited. The content can be accessed anytime, anywhere, on any device supporting iOS, Android, or purely a standard web browser such as Internet Explorer or Google Chrome. Upskilling can be achieved around existing commitments, allowing you to more effectively keep up to date with the latest developments and make better use of your technology investment. Now, when considering knowledge sharing, again, one of the challenges our customers face is the need to standardize. As an example of this, customers moving into Revit will soon realize the importance of creating geometry and populating data fields within a consistent manner. One of the great things about Autodesk technology is that there's a number of ways to accomplish the same thing, but if working within a collaborative environment on the same model, if approached differently, it can actually have a negative effect on productivity, with each user trying to unpick what the previous user's done. There's one thing understanding how to use Revit, but another in ensuring that there's a consistent approach specifically tailored to the way that that organization creates its data. Pinnacle Series therefore allows an organization to host their own training material, best practices and standard operating procedures. Now with unlimited cloud storage, it can become the one-stop shop for all, as well as providing the one source of truth in comparison to documents scattered across either a network share or worse still, hidden away within an email attachment. So finally, there's productivity. By using Pinnacle Series, you'll naturally become more efficient and productive in the way you drive the technology, but in reality will at some point get stuck. Not only is the system great for proactive learning, it's there to answer questions around a specific subject matter when you need it most. Now, this can either be done by utilizing the search function, or if preferred, can also be achieved by reaching out to an Autodesk expert within the chat feature. The aim is to support momentum and keep you productive whilst under the pressure to get projects out the door. So putting the specific AEC content to the side, Pinnacle Series can also be purchased as purely a platform.
Yeah, good call.
Many of the customers I speak to have a requirement to house organisational specific training, for example, health and safety information or GDPR, as well as organisational specific standard operating procedures, processes and induction material. Now, although elements of this can be housed within a standard intranet, from my experience, they're normally filed away within a dated folder structure. The systems have limited search capability and everything has to be downloaded prior to viewing, resulting in a lack of utilisation and subsequent benefit. Pinnacle Series can also act as the company intranet, but with the benefit of unlimited cloud storage and a mechanism to deliver content effectively through the use of learning paths, videos, cheat sheets and short quizzes to validate consumption and retention of the necessary information, and all hosted within a convenient web browser. Learning paths provide a great way to take a user through custom material, well defined within a number of sequential steps. And this ensures that the user is consuming the right information in the right order and ensuring retention through each step of the journey. In addition to this, deadlines and certificates of completion can also be associated, all trackable within the reporting dashboard. The reports can also be used for reviewing the progress of a new inductee or the personal development of an existing member of staff, providing additional support when it comes to their yearly appraisal. So hopefully that provides you a brief overview around some of the challenges Pinnacle Series 2018 addresses. We're now going to take a deep dive into the system, and I'm going to hand you over to Jeff Rouse for the actual presentation. Over to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Ben. So thanks again, everybody, for taking time to allow me to go more in depth with Pinnacle Series here for you. I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction of myself to go a little bit more in depth, only because I think it pertains and will help you understand me as I present this. So my name is Jeff Rouse. I work for Eagle Point Software. We're the organization, the company that has developed the Pinnacle Series. My time with the Pinnacle Series, though, has been far more greater on the user side of things. So only up until about 3 years ago, I was a user of this product in my career. Here in the States, I'm a licensed civil engineer, so I've utilized the Pinnacle Series in my career to take me right out of college from not really knowing how to do my design work in Civil 3D in my case, to becoming an expert. And literally the only source of training I used in my career was the Pinnacle Series. So I became very passionate about the product, and when an opportunity arose to then come work on the product and help take it, even further, I jumped on that opportunity. So when I show you Pinnacle Series today, it's going to be as one that has experience working on the back end of it and working behind the scenes, but more importantly, it's going to be from the experience of a user, as someone who spent much more time using the product and benefiting personally from the product. So again, thanks for allowing me to show it to you, and we'll get started now. The first thing to note is Pinnacle's in the browser. So as you can see, I happen to be using Google Chrome, but like Ben mentioned, you can use any browser on any platform and gain access to the Pinnacle Series. Here on the login screen, when you arrive, it's a simple username and password, but I wanted to draw your attention to the languages. Pinnacle Series right away, and I'll talk more about this in the roadmap because this project is pretty much 99% complete. I can show you the translation if there's questions about that, but we can instantly translate into over 60 languages. So as I'm going to talk about making content in Pinnacle, that gives you the freedom to make content in your native language and trust that it's automatically going to be available in any language that you may need. So logging into the Pinnacle Series, you land on what's called the home screen. And I'm going to pause here and sort of do some background information of the presentation, a further outline of what I'm going to cover as you're looking at the home screen. But what the home screen is this is a landing place for you to get one-click access to any of the content here in Pinnacle. We call the content assets, but there can be a few different reasons that drives a user to come to Pinnacle. And if I had to boil all of those reasons down into 3 categories, it would be they come to Pinnacle to get an answer fast, they come to Pinnacle to learn about something, to get trained on a topic, or they come to Pinnacle to help them do their work efficiently. So that's going to be how I sort of tailor my presentation here, getting an answer fast, learning, and doing my work efficiently. So when a user lands here, they can absolutely get an answer fast, and that would be utilizing the search. But before I get into that, let me kind of do a tour of this home screen here. Here in the upper left-hand corner, organizations have the ability to customize Pinnacle. They can put their company logo here in the top left. They can put a corporate image. Maybe this is an image of a project that's currently going on. Maybe this is an image of a corporate office if you're a multi-office site or a multi-office organization. Down below there's these quick links. I happen to have 3 examples in there, but this can be an area that you customize. Think of it as a newsfeed area, an area you customize that you want people to gain one-click access to a certain area or certain content within your organization. So this area right here is completely customizable. Down below that is what's called the asset library. The asset library is broken up into 2 sections, content specific to your organization, and then public content that is available to every user of Pinnacle Series worldwide. So content specific to your organization, if you expand this list, you have one-click access to that content. It could be content around your Civil 3D standards, your Revit standards. It could be content around your HR processes, your IT processes, your phone system. You know, the sky's the limit for how big this list gets and what this list contains. The important thing to know is it's completely customizable, and you can make your own content in Pinnacle. The public asset library, this right out of the box day one, has over 70,000 assets that you have access to. These assets come in 4 different forms, and I'll talk about those a little bit later, but that's what this library is here. So if you want to get to the Autodesk content, expand that list, and you can have one-click access to those assets. Here in the upper right-hand corner is a user profile card. This is going to show me a quick snippet of information on what I'm involved in Pinnacle, me personally, Jeff Rouse. Down below that is a trending area. Within the trending area, you have the content that is trending within an organization. So as a project starts and you see content being used often, that would rise to the list. Maybe your organization did a bunch of hiring and you're going to see some HR processes rise to that list. Maybe your organization just adopted a new IT system and there's a lot of frequently asked questions. You're going to see that content start to rise to this list as your IT department puts that content in Pinnacle. So it's a real quick access to what's popular in your organization. This download add-ons is available only by permissions for people in your organization, but this is where you get access to some of the back-end controls that you can download and deploy throughout your organization. So I probably won't focus much on this unless there's questions. Down below at the very bottom is my frequently used assets. The best way to think of this area or this section is an intelligent favorites for each individual user. So as every user logs into Pinnacle, this is going to be a different list, and this is going to be the content that I find myself accessing often. So that's a quick tour of the home screen. Now, if you remember those 3 major uses of Pinnacle, that's what I'm going to focus or talk about now. So getting an answer fast to a question. You know, one of the main ways people use our product is they're doing their work. They're working in Revit. They're working in Civil 3D. The IT department is fielding questions. The HR department is trying to give information to somebody that just asked a question, and they need to come to Pinnacle and they need to ask a question and get an answer fast. So if I'm a civil engineer and I need to have a question about corridor in Civil 3D, and I can see what Pinnacle has for me that can help me answer my questions around corridors. If I'm working in Revit and I want to know how to lay in a curtain wall, I've never done that before, I have a specific question about it, I simply ask a question around curtain walls. If I just got a new phone system and I need to set up my voicemail, I can search for set up voicemail and see if my IT department took time to type up instructions to help me how to do that. So This can literally be a database for any question that anybody may have in your organization, from an in-depth design question to how to set up my voicemail to who do I give my 401k paperwork to, or my benefit paperwork, or the sky's the limit for how you can use this product and what you can come to it for an answer for. Let me go back to my curtain wall search, and I want to talk about the answers. If I claim that Pinnacle Series is where you can put all your answers, what is the form of those answers? Now, I mentioned that it's an asset library, and again, out of the box, Pinnacle comes to you with over 70,000 assets. But that library, day one, as a user begins using Pinnacle, that library is the least valuable or the least useful it'll be for an organization, because as you customize this product and build it up over time, it becomes all the more valuable. So when I do my curtain wall search right here, my answer is going to come from two sources. It's going to either come from us, the authors at Eagle Point Software, or our partners like Excitech, or it's going to come from your organization. So right here, the name of my organization is Rouse Demo. So if this is content specific for my organization, I can toggle on this filter and only see that content as well. The content's going to come in 4 different forms. There's 4 different types of content. It's going to be a cheat sheet, a course or a learning path, a video, or a workflow, which is like a process. And I'll talk about in depth what each one of those are. So a cheat sheet. When I search for curtain wall, I can toggle on cheat sheet, and I can see that there's these, another way to think of these is white papers or frequently asked questions. When I go into a cheat sheet, it's a set of instructions that helps me answer a specific question or a specific problem that I had. In this case, my curtain wall is not embedding, so here's a quick troubleshooting guide that's going to step me through that problem. That's what a cheat sheet is. Courses I'll talk about when I talk about the learning side of Pinnacle, so I'm going to skip over that for now. Let's say my question is around work sharing. So work sharing, I'm going to go to more of a multidiscipline search. Another resource we have are videos. When I toggle this on, a video is pretty self-explanatory, but I do want to click into one to show you some features specific to the video content or the video assets here in Pinnacle. When I click play on this, you're going to see, first off, it's a normal video. There's somebody talking me through, in this case, Introduction to Work Sharing. What you're going to see off here on the right is an intelligent script that's scrolling through with that video. So the script is going to allow me to track where I'm at in the video and even be clickable if I want to use it to navigate through that video, to jump to portions I may be more interested in. There's also closed captioning. And the benefit of closed captioning and transcription is that along with this video, you can search on the description of the video here below, but also every spoken word that's spoken here in this transcript is indexed in our Pinnacle search mechanism and is therefore searchable. So if something's talked about in the middle of this video or towards the end, and you may not know even that there's video content on it based on the title, doing a search will bring up this video in that search result. And then couple that with the power of translation. Like I mentioned, start out, you can make a video in your native language, and people will still hear it in that native language, but they'll have a transcript translated to their language here on the right, scrolling along with the video. So it's a very nice multilingual asset to have that functionality. So that's a video asset. And again, getting back to the story of why we arrived here, I had a quick question on how to work share, and here's a quick 2-minute video that's going to show me an introduction to work share. Lastly, the asset of a workflow. This is a process or a procedure that steps me through the best way of doing something. So I'm going to toggle to make sure I get an updated version of Revit. So here's a Revit workflow that steps me through work sharing within my organization. Now, one very important thing to understand that I've touched on already is out of the box, this is a work sharing process that you would gain access to. But you can make your own work sharing process. Better yet, you can even copy this one word for word verbatim and tweak it to make it specific for how you do things within your organization. So that as we talk about central file management, as we talk about creating the local copies and coordinating with team members, we're calling team members out by name and we're calling specific locations out by name to further make this process efficient for those that follow it. So I use a diagram up here to navigate through my workflow. So I can go to step 2 here, which is decide when I should work share. And I can read the steps I need to follow down below. Moving on, I can talk about server-based central model and read about the things I need to follow down below to complete this. Now, work sharing, when you think of work sharing, when you think of processes and following processes, it's kind of a twofold problem. The hidden problem is knowing when I need to go through my steps, whether it's the steps of setting up a work sharing model, designing a roadway, setting up a phone system, onboarding a new employee, invoicing a client. Setting up those steps is the first problem that is solved with setting up a workflow. The second problem that's solved is when in a step I'm told to do something, once finished, save the project, I may not know how to do that. I may not know how to save a project. That may be a bad example because you just click save in Revit, but think of those examples with your processes, your workflows. When it comes to onboarding a new employee, maybe step 9 is fill out this paperwork. What we did with Pinnacle is we developed this concept of tool links to then connect you with the necessary tools. This tool link right here will actually communicate with Revit and run a Revit command. In fact, as I'm holding my tooltip, is displaying what's going to be communicated in the specific command that's going to be pushed to Revit and ran. These tool links can download files, they can send emails, they can open other programs. They're very, very flexible. And the second problem we're solving with that is, if I'm told in a project that I need to do an estimate, go find the estimate file, I don't know where that is, so I need to be connected with that. So these tool links connect me with the necessary tools to help me do my work exactly when I need it. Those tool links can be just-in-time training. Down below here, you're seeing where we're linking you out to a video. What this video is going to do is it's going to give me just-in-time training to show me what I need. Ben did a good job of referencing a book that said, I think the number was 56% of what we learned within the first hour is lost. So I'm going to show you in a little bit where Pinnacle has courses, and courses are good and great. But I'm a firm believer that even better is consuming this just-in-time training as I'm going through this workflow here. And I'll be linked out to that in Pinnacle. If I'm told to design a roadway and make an assembly in Civil 3D, I'm going to be linked to a video real quick that's going to show me in 2 minutes how to do that, and then I can go complete the work. So these processes or these workflows are very powerful and very flexible, and that's just one of the assets that's at your fingertips when you do a search to get an answer to your question fast. The second way you can get an answer to your question fast, other than doing a search and consuming an asset, is you can come down and reach out to support. Here in the bottom right-hand corner is a way for me to open support, select a product I have a question about, type my question and hit submit, and then I'm going to be off and running on a support chat with somebody that can help me answer my question live as opposed to an asset if maybe the asset wasn't available here in Pinnacle Series. So that is how Pinnacle can help you get an answer fast to a question. The second thing that I mentioned is Pinnacle can help you learn on a topic. So when you think of consuming something new, onboarding a new employee, learning Civil 3D, learning Revit, learning Recap, learning my phone system for my organization, you can make what are called courses in Pinnacle for people to take. Now, any user, whenever they want, can come in here and enroll in courses. You're seeing here on my home page, the courses I'm enrolled in currently happen to be, I think, 5 right now. And with a click of a mouse, I can click that course and pick up wherever I left off. So in this Recap Fundamentals course, I appear to be done consuming all the content. I'm about ready to take a quiz. But let's pretend I wasn't done with that. These courses are a way for us to take all of the assets in Pinnacle and line up whichever ones I want in whatever order I want to teach somebody on a topic. In this case, Recap. If I had a question about Recap, I can search for Recap. Maybe Recap Scan would be my search, and I can get this particular video right here independent of this course. But as somebody that's maybe in charge of training my people in my organization, I can line up assets into a course and assign people to those courses. Or end users can enroll in those courses. So I'm going to step through this content here on the left, and I'm going to learn in this case about what Autodesk Recap is, maybe how to use it for a scan project, how to use it for a photo project, and I'm going to even take a quiz that assesses me in my knowledge. Later, I'm really excited to show you how we can partner this with Knowledge Smart in an integration project that we have underway. But right now, what I can do is consume this content, take a quiz to see how I did, and then mark this course as complete. And then when I go back to my home screen, that course will simply disappear here from my course listing. So that's what it's like to take a course. Now, if I want to come here and consume training on something, I can search for a course right here from the search bar, or I can go to what's called the Learning Center by clicking this little graduation hat here in the upper right-hand corner. In the Learning Center, here is where I can browse for training. So if I want training on corridors, for example, I can search for corridors, and I'm going to get all of the courses that are currently here in Pinnacle, either the public content that you get just by being a Pinnacle user, or the content your organization has made itself. And then I can click on a course, preview what's going to be covered in this course as an end user. So here's sort of a syllabus or a course description on what's going to be covered. And if I want to, I can hit enroll. And like that, I'm enrolled for a course. And anybody can do this an unlimited amount of times in your organization. Now, on the back end, managers or team leaders or program managers or business unit directors, whatever the title is for your organization, they have the ability to assign a course. So maybe your HR department took time to create an onboarding course, and that onboarding course we need to assign to the 3 new hires that we have. You can absolutely do that using a Pinnacle management utility right here that gets installed on a desktop. So this desktop management utility is what I do in the back end, and this alone I could easily spend an hour covering, and I would love to field any questions on this because I'm not going to spend too much time covering it. But this is where I can assign people courses, or I can make those courses and even run reports to track the usage of that. So as a manager, if I assign a course, I can launch this utility here that will allow me to see the progress of that person going through the course, track their quiz completion time. This mechanism is even so detailed as to say if there's a 40-minute video you wanted somebody to watch, you can see that they only watched it for 2 minutes, things like that. So it's a very robust mechanism. Another thing I'll talk about later is our exposed API. So when you think of that, in light of this, you can even extract this information and plug it into an LMS system you may currently be using. So it's very powerful. I won't go too in-depth, although I'd love to entertain any questions that people may have specifically on the management utility or reporting or some of this back-end stuff in general. So getting back to the learning side of things, managers can enroll people in courses, and that's how you would do that using that management utility if you don't want to leave it up to the individual user to volunteer and take these courses on their own time. Now, going back to the Learning Center, individual users here can browse for training like I mentioned. They can enter their courses just like I can on the home screen. Down below here in the Learning Center, I can download my entire enrollment history. Think of this as a transcript if I want to keep sort of an electronic trail on what I've done here in Pinnacle. I can click that and download that. Also, and here's that transcript. Also, for each individual course right here, end users or the users in your organization can come and you can see I drop a lot of courses because I demonstrate this a lot, but for this one course I did finish right here that's in green, I can hit download and actually download a certificate specific to that course so I can keep a paper or electronic trail of what I've completed. So think of your individual certifications or licensures and the requirements they have. This is the functionality that allows you to track that progress as you go through it as a user. So that's using Pinnacle to learn. Now I want to talk about using Pinnacle to work. When you think of doing work in your organization, Pinnacle right here has a lot of great assets for you to use. Like I've said a couple of times, 70,000+, let's say that number grows to 100,000 as you make content over time at your organization. And that's good and great. I can search for that when I get stuck. I can line those assets up into a course when I want to learn about a topic. We also have this concept called work groups. This is geared at helping you do your work at your organization. The simplistic or most simple definition of a work group is it's an organization of data and an organization of people around a topic within your organization. Some obvious uses of that could be project-based. So when I look at my project-based work group right here for this Acme building project, when I click into it, you're going to see that it's a organization of data here in the center, and it's an organization of people here on the right. So what a work group is when you think of all of the tools and resources you have at your fingertips in Pinnacle, this is a way for an owner like myself, maybe a project manager or editors, to say, out of all of the content in Pinnacle, here are the 5 or 6 or 12 assets that apply to this specific project. So this building project right here may use curtain walls. So there's a curtain wall video that I as the owner or David or Don as editors have said is pertinent or pertains to this work group. So the users right here can come to this work group and trust that this material is vetted and the right appropriate people have said this applies to this project. You know, maybe there's an optional course here. We didn't want to force people to take it, but we wanted to let people know that there's an electrical systems course here in Pinnacle that will help them do their work if they're finding they're struggling with modeling the electrical system for this project. This BIM execution plan, when I go into this process here, this is no longer a generic BIM execution plan. This is the BIM execution plan for this Acme building project. So when we start getting over here to meeting number 1, BIM goals and uses, instead of generically saying we need to have a meeting and you need to invite these people, these generic job titles, we can start calling people out by name and say, here's the owner that needs to be invited. Here's the location of the meeting. When you're ready to schedule it, go through these steps, that type of thing. So you can step through your project checkpoints specific to the project, not just generic to a type of project like it. And that's the benefit of these work groups, is connecting people with content and then customizing that content specific to the project. That is one example of one work group. The sky is the limit, but if you allow me, let's talk about some other examples as well, because this is a pretty powerful use of Pinnacle. So when you think of work groups, another example could be job role based. When you think of BIM managers or CAD managers, when I go in this work group, maybe this is all of the company BIM standards or CAD standards. And the group right here all have permissions to edit this content and edit this work group. And so we're going to babysit these standards, and then maybe better yet, as a new project starts, we can copy this introduction to BIM or this process into that project and then allow that specific project to tweak it and make it their own for that project. So it's a really nice way for you to organize based on job roles. Think of your HR department. Maybe all of the HR content is in that HR work group, or your IT department, their frequently asked questions. An onboarding work group for new employees that are, the people in that work group could be people that have just started with the organization in the last 6 months, and it's all of the frequently asked questions that they may have. They'll find it very comforting to know at one click away they can see all of the questions that they find themselves having over the first few months of employment at your organization. So maybe job role. A human resource work group, like I was kind of hinting at, could have some of those processes for onboarding new employees, employee referral program. Here we have employee frequently asked questions. So I can, with one click, see what are the employee FAQs. How do I request time off? How do I submit my timesheet? How do I view the employee handbook? How do I view the organizational chart? Things like that. So if I had a question about the org chart, I could come to my work group, click on this, and find that. But obviously, I can still do a search and get connected with this content as well. But this is a way that maybe if I don't even know the questions I have or even know the content around HR processes, I can come here and just kind of browse that content or be connected with that content. So the concept of work group is very big. The concept of making a course is very big. So if you kind of zoom back out for a moment and think about what this platform is, it's just that. It's a platform. It's a platform that hosts all of the assets that pertain to your organization. Now, we as an organization, Eagle Point, partners like Excitech, we're always making content and putting it into Pinnacle Series and delivering that to our clients. That happens literally on a daily basis. So you have the most up-to-date content. So if you want to go through a Revit workflow or a Civil 3D workflow, you come here, and when Civil 3D 2019 comes out, for example, we're going to have 2019 content, and you follow that process, and you know it's the most up-to-date process using the most new release features for that 2019 Civil 3D process, things like that. As you want to update or tweak your own content, users are going to know that Pinnacle is a trusted resource to come through and go through their process for designing feature lines specific to your organization, not just a generic way of doing it. I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the features of the content. Now that we've got a little bit of an overview on what the content is, maybe some possible uses for it, or even as you author your own content, these same features apply. No matter what the content is, if it's a cheat sheet, a video, a process, or a course, they all have some functionality built into the content. So here, as you can see, there's these 3 icons I'm hovering my mouse around. And all of our content has this, like I just said. The ability to give it a thumbs up. When you think about that, this is a way of socializing the content within your organization, even seeing who are the ones that recommended it, knowing if they're trusted sources. And you'll see content rise in popularity and even bolster the search results of that content, therefore. So it's a really nice way for you to recommend content and see who is liking certain things. The ability to share content. When I click the share button, I can quickly put this content in a work group. This happens to be a course, and maybe with this highway extension project, I want my project team to know that this course is available if they think they need it. I can, with one click, put this in that work group so that people can see it when they're in that work group. I can also email it out or share it via email that way and send it to somebody, and they can click that link, or I can Skype it to somebody and they can click that link and have an answer fast. And one of my favorites is the ability to have inter-office or inter-organizational expertise on each individual piece of content. So if I'm watching a video, if I'm consuming a course, if I'm going through a workflow and I get stuck or have a question, I can go to the top of that page, click this button, and I can see who the go-to person or who the go-to people are within my company, so I can know the correct person to ask that question to. You know, too often in organizations, we're asking the wrong people for either they aren't the subject matter expert like we thought they were, or maybe an organization's identified people that have more overhead time or more non-billable time built into them, and this can be a way for organizations to direct traffic internally and say, go to this person with your questions, because that's how our organization's set up to work the best, is you asking these certain people questions. So that's one of my favorites because it helps you get the right person internally with a question. So those 3 features are on all of our content. Also on all of our content down below is the ability to add comments specific to that piece of content. So in a video, in a process, in a course, if I want to share a comment with my organization, not globally, but with my organization, I type that comment here and others will see it as well. So again, socializing that content. You know, maybe in this course I say, hey, the editing feature line video you're going to watch in this course doesn't quite apply to us, but it's good for this resource or something like that. You know, it's a way for you to communicate about specific pieces of content within your organization. So that's an overview of Pinnacle. To kind of recap, what I did is I talked about how you can get an answer fast to your questions, whether it's as simple as how do I set up my voicemail for my phone system, or as complicated as what's our BIM process to follow for building projects or electrical projects. I showed you how you can learn about a topic. That course can be something that your organization has developed or something that's come from us and that we've developed to all of our clients and sent to all of our clients. And I've showed you how you can organize your content into what's called a work group, so you can connect the right project team with the right project content, or the right job roles with the right content for that job role using work groups. The last thing I'll mention quickly is the toolbar here on the upper right. This is where I can get home real fast. I can go to the work center where I can create my work groups. Literally anybody can create a work group, but you're only going to see the work groups you're involved in. So I can even create a work group of one person myself and maybe call it favorites and put the content in there that I find myself accessing often. That's the work center. The learning center we covered. This is where I control all things learning in Pinnacle. The notification utility here, this is where I can get notified of things that I'm involved in Pinnacle. If I'm a manager and I enrolled somebody in a course and they finish it, I'll get a notification. If they're overdue on a course, I'll get a notification. If I am, as a user, am enrolled in a course, I'll get a notification. If I'm in a work group, I'll get a notification. If content is added, modified, or subtracted from that work group, I'll get a notification. So you're going to see this notification bell going off and a little red 1, 2, 3, or 4, etc. displaying on this notification bell, and that's a way for me to stay up to speed with what's going on in Pinnacle. And then lastly is the user profile, which allows people to edit their picture and password and things like that. That is Pinnacle from an end user standpoint. For about 2 minutes, I do want to mention this management utility just for those people that are aware to know managing how simple it is on the back end. This is where we make content. I'll field any questions there are on it, but just know that making content is as easy as using any word processing engine. When you make your own workflows, your own cheat sheets, your own videos, it's a very simple process to follow. In fact, you can even copy our content. Everything you see in Pinnacle out of the box, we allow you to copy, tweak, and make your own. In fact, we encourage it. So that BIM workflow, that was a public one that you saw a little bit on your screen. You can copy that in its entirety and then tweak it and make it specific for your organization, and then tweak it further to make it specific for each individual project as you see fit. Administering users is something that people usually care a lot about. Without going too much in depth, we do Active Directory sync and we utilize single sign-on. If those terms mean something to you, great. If not, just know that it's a set it and forget it system. You set up Pinnacle and it's meant to be automatic. So as people join your organization, they're automatically added to Pinnacle. As you set them up with Windows credentials to log into their system, that's automatically controlled in the system to get them access to Pinnacle quick, easy, and fast. There's reporting mechanisms like I quickly showed you that allow you to track learning, and they allow you to track things like how are people using Pinnacle in my organization. So that's all done from the back end via this downloaded management utility, and this management utility is likely only put on a select few individuals' workstations at your organization. This isn't something that everybody has access to. This is something that you only probably have a few people have access to. But that's how you control all of that back end stuff. Okay, so that's Pinnacle. Now I want to transition into where are we going. So that's Pinnacle today, and that is everything that you have access to day one. I want to talk now about our roadmap. This roadmap, just so you know, is not something we set forth today, this week even, and said here's what we're going to accomplish. This is something we set forth months ago and we're currently executing on. There's stuff that's completed and stuff that still has yet to be done. So project one is we wanted to put Pinnacle in the browser. We wanted to enhance the user experience, make it look better, and put it in the browser. For those that aren't aware, Pinnacle used to be a desktop installed application. For those of you that are aware, you'll know what I'm talking about. So Pinnacle, up until a few months ago, was a desktop installed application, and that limited us. People would have to coordinate with IT departments when updates were released. People would have to coordinate with their organization if they wanted it installed at home, and it was limited to Windows-based systems. Now that we're in the browser, you can access it from anywhere you have an internet location, even mobile devices. So that project's complete, and that is what I just got done showing you. Project number two actually is project number one in that no one knew this, but we had to make an API in order to make the browser version of Pinnacle. We're calling this project number two is because it's on the backbone of that from an end user standpoint. But what we've done is we've completely 100% exposed our API. So that way, if you have any sort of development staff, if you have any sort of development ideas, you can take Pinnacle, take the content in Pinnacle, take the reporting mechanism, all that stuff, and plug it into whatever systems that you want there at your organization. To illustrate this to the most extreme, you could theoretically build your own Pinnacle using all of our content, because that's exactly what we did. We developed this API, and then on top of that, we built exactly what I just got done showing you. And you can do the same, and that's just an extreme illustration on the power of this and what this could be used to do. So the power of this, to be quite frank, is outside of my realm because I'm not a developer myself. I'm a civil engineer, but this is pretty powerful in what you can do with Pinnacle and how you can utilize it across many systems within your organization. And that project is complete. Language translation. This, you're going to see the fuel gauge there in the bottom say almost complete. By all intensive purposes, this is 100% complete. The only thing that makes this not complete is that transcripting functionality I showed you with our videos, not all of our videos have transcripts yet. We started with 2018 and we're working backwards, going all the way back to 2012. To be honest, I don't know if we're going to go all the way to 2012. I'm not sure how many people use our 2012 content. But right now, today, all of our content is translated with the click of a mouse. The only thing that's not is any video that doesn't have a transcript won't be translated simply because we haven't done the work of creating transcripts for our 2015 videos, as an example. But by and large, this is 100% complete right now, other than that little caveat. And this, for those that are interested, uses the Microsoft translation engine. So the pros and cons of that, we're not shy about the cons of that. The cons of that is it's using Microsoft's machine translation. It's not a human with that human aspect. So there are little things, little nuances that may be a little odd at first. The benefit of that is Microsoft is improving this by leaps and bounds, literally by the month. And when they make an improvement, we benefit from it instantly since it's a cloud service that we're using. So as this gets better and better and better over time, so does ours get better and better over time. You're not relying on us to develop improvements to this. We're relying on a company like Microsoft to develop and improve this, which happens often and well. Project number 4, Universal Document Integration. This is one of my personal favorites. So this project is underway, and what this is, we're right now in Pinnacle, you have to make content within Pinnacle using the native format. So a cheat sheet is its own format. I have to open up our content manager, type up my stuff in cheat sheets. If I already have it in a Word doc, I have to copy and paste into a cheat sheet and put it into Pinnacle. That's how it is today. How it's going to be is your PowerPoint files, your Excel files, your Word files, your HTMLs, PDFs, you name it. That content can essentially be drag and dropped into Pinnacle and remain in its native form. So if you want to edit that, you open up the Word document, edit it, and it's going to be displayed live and currently in Pinnacle as a native format. The other benefit of that is on page 35 in your Word document, we can search within your Word document. So if something's talked about on page 35, doing a search in Pinnacle will get you connected with that document because we'll then be able to search within documents and things like that. So that's a very powerful integration. Now today, if you want to use current documentation, you absolutely can, but it's in the form of that tooling functionality, if you remember me mentioning that. So if I want to reference a document, I can insert a tooling today where I click it and it opens up that document. It just opens it up external of Pinnacle, and we want to marry those two to be a better user experience, and that's what this project is going to be geared towards doing. So this is, again, one of my personal favorites, and I'm very excited about this one, but this one's currently underway. Assessments. If you remember me talking about this one, I said I'm going to talk more about this. I was in a course, and I was showing you how currently today in Pinnacle we can quiz people. We can let them watch some videos, and at the end of that we can say, hey, now take a quiz and answer these questions, and you as a team leader or as a manager can see how somebody did on a course. That functionality is there today. What we hope to make this functionality is we have a current partnership. The partnership's in place, and we're working on designing and developing this to completion. When complete, what this will look like is, for those of you that don't know Knowledge Smart, which I assume most of you do, but for those of you that don't, it's an assessment engine, and we use a third party strategically. We didn't want to develop this internally because if you miss something on an assessment, we didn't want to automatically connect you with our content. There's an accountability that comes with a third party knowing what organizations are assessing on. That helps us develop good content based on that. So what this will look like is when this is complete, you as an organization, you're going to be able to bring on a new hire or assess anybody whenever you want, or a group of people whenever you want. Give them an assessment. When that assessment is complete, there will be a gap analysis automatically done that will analyze the weaknesses of that individual to assets in Pinnacle and automatically develop and enroll that person in a course based on their weaknesses. Think of all of the lost time that comes from you taking a course where you actually knew 20, 30, 40, 80% of what was completed in that course. You have to consume that entire course just to learn the little bit, the gaps that you didn't know. We're hoping to demolish that altogether with this Knowledge Smart integration. And then maybe on the back end, you send them through another assessment that will do another gap analysis, and of the 15 videos they had to watch, they only have to rewatch one of them based on the thing they still have yet to learn. And all of that is going to be automated. So you as an organization, you simply pick an individual, pick an assessment, hit the button, walk away, and they take the assessment, get enrolled in a course, take the course, and you get notified all along the way as a manager. We are very excited about this one, and it's currently underway with design for what this will look like. Now, to talk a little bit more about this, I'm actually going to pass you over to Ben.
Thanks, Jeff. Very much appreciate that. So yeah, for me, the integration of KnowledgeSmart is really interesting based on general customer feedback, specifically around remote learning. So the graphic above demonstrates our methodology to organisational development, which helps support customer success, driving greater return on investment within both the software subscription as well as the team that enables it. So to start with, we actually review what specific technology is relevant to the organisation, measuring the knowledge within that specified technology, identifying the gaps and providing education and enabling the solution all the way through to underlying the capability through Autodesk professional certification. The challenges around remote learning is normally driven by the lack of focus and therefore adoption. So with classroom-based training, there's an upfront commitment to time and resource, and because of that, the necessary focus is always given. The problem with remote learning is that regardless of how good the system is, as I would say, you can only take the horse to water, and it's all too easy to prioritise other commitments in the way of personal development. The fact is, we know we need to do it and would actually save time over the longer term due to being more productive. With the rate of technology ever increasing and allowing each missed opportunity to accumulate, before you know it, that gap can grow and actually become quite significant. So for these reasons, the pure provision of the system, notification and distribution to users is really inadequate, and in most cases it would only achieve minimal benefit. The problem is the responsibility of adoption and its success only sits with the training manager and not with the users, who are the ones that will actually benefit the most from it. Utilising pre-assessment through KnowledgeSmart, gaps can be quickly identified, training can then be optimised and aligned specific content available within Pinnacle Series, and the results can then be used as a metric to identify the level of upskilling within an organisation when it comes to post-assessment. Not only this, post-assessment through yearly appraisals will provide evidence of progression and continues to address any remaining gaps that might be outstanding. Now, as an employer, you're specifically supporting the needs of the individual, but at the same time expanding the success of adoption through the wider team. It's now in their interest to provide the adequate time for personal development, benefiting both the individual as well as the organisation. Now, you can already subscribe to KnowledgeSmart, and the mapping, as we do with a number of customers, can be completed manually. But of course, moving forward, as Jeff touched on, this is going to be automated, and customers subscribed to both will be automatically given that new functionality when it's available. So that pretty much leads me to the end of the presentation today. Hopefully you found it useful, and now I'd just like to open up the floor to questions. If you can use the chat feature, if you've got questions coming through, we will answer them as best we can. Okay, Jeff, so one of the questions is with regards to Autodesk certified content. So is it possible to touch on that, how the content is aligned to the Autodesk kind of certifications, such as kind of the essentials and fundamentals courses?
Yeah, absolutely. So we stay closely tied to that. So my role, just so you know, too, at Eagle Point Software is I'm the team lead for the content side of things. And so our process is very aligned with their certification process, and whatever the trends they do, that's how we make our courses and our content to stay aligned with that as well. So it piggybacks on that and is closely mirroring what that is, I guess, is the short answer to that.
Brilliant. Okay, we've got another one. What's the cost of the licensing? So the licensing is an enterprise license, which makes it very flexible. Essentially, when we look to cost it, we will base that costing on the Autodesk footprint and any other users that might want access to the platform only. And basically, it's all down to consumption. We will review, how many users are consuming data over that 12-month period, and then adjust the pricing each year to kind of coincide with that consumption. Okay, is there any more? Okay, do you provide training on developing custom content? So yes, absolutely. I mean, what we try to do in most cases is enable customers to be able to generate the content themselves. But we can provide training on being able to create that content, and we can also at the beginning of a project and to populate it with a lot of data initially, we can obviously do that under our services division. That's no problem at all. Okay, this one will be one for you, Jeff. Is there availability to refresh clear course history for users who may need to repeat training? Oh yeah, well yeah.
Yep. Yes, there is the short answer, and you can even compare and contrast. So once a course is complete, a user can take that an unlimited amount of times. And to be clear, you can't wipe away that they've had to take it twice, but you can replace the fact that they maybe failed a quiz the first time and passed it a second time. So you can actually track their improvement through a course.
Okay, we've got another one here. What training topics are included? So what we can do is we can obviously send out a list, a breakdown of all the topics available. Off the top of my head, you've got AutoCAD, AutoCAD Civil 3D, Revit Architecture, Revit MEP, Revit Structures, Navisworks, Dynamo, BIM 360, 3ds Max, Robot. I mean, the list goes on, and I think for those specifics, we'll if you're interested in learning more about the content, we can obviously go through that with you in detail. And within all this content, it's very much there for a new user, intermediate, all the way through to advanced users. Okay, so yeah, I think is that all of them? Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to join us on the session today. If you do have any further questions, by all means, utilize the telephone number and the email address that we've got at the bottom of this slide, and we will come straight back to you. Thanks again for joining, and look forward to speaking to you soon. Thanks, Jeff.
Yep, thanks.
Cheers.
Yep.